Hey everybody, welcome to Leo's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. We are looking at Richard's 360 right here. This hasn't been used hardly at all. I think if I remember his email correctly, it's only been used for about one season and then it was put away and never touched again. So he wanted to get it running. Thought initially with what he was describing maybe we had a bad carburetor boot, but it appears to be in good shape actually. There were two things I found in the carburetor that I'm pretty convinced were what was going on. One, the gasket and diaphragm on this end, on the pump end, were reversed. So you want your thin gasket with the little flappers to be down against the block, because those are check valves. As it receives a pulse, they're going to either open or close. So again, this was reversed with the circuit gasket down against the block as opposed to up. So that was the first problem. Second one was on the inlet needle side. There's that check valve. So you've got, on these HDC carburetors, you've got this circuit plate. So when you first pop the cover off, you're going to, well, of course it'll be assembled, but you see all this. Well, underneath here is that check valve. All it is a piece of the gasket material, the diaphragm material, this real thin stuff, a round piece that moves up and down in here underneath this damn screen. Well, the kit that Homelite sold, you could pop this entire brass body out, drop the new valve in, just press this into place. Well, the K10 HDC carburetor kits come with a new screen and a new snap ring most of the time, so if you're careful you can pry this out. I wanted to inspect it, but I especially decided I needed to when I looked at the screen itself. Now, this will probably be hard to see. Let's see if I can flatten it back out. But that is completely plugged with some sort of garbage and gunk. So no fuel or air could have possibly flown. Try again. Slow down your words. No fuel could have possibly gone through here. That is just a complete and total disaster. So, anyway, you can see the nice new screen right there. The check valve itself was in great shape, so I'm going to reassemble this and we'll give it a test run. Okay, so my theory was mostly right. There was one other problem. That is where the hose was going through to the tank. And that is severely constricted, and there was a bunch of corrosion in there. So it wasn't allowing it to draw fuel for that reason as well. And I can see the tank has been cleaned out of some corrosion, but like I say, this neck right up here had some, so I threw a piece of fresh line in here. It's not quite long enough, so I'll go ahead and get that changed out and sized properly. And then with the corrosion, I'm afraid there's going to be a leak around here, so I'm probably going to put a nice little gob of the Moto Seal that's fuel resistant around there to actually seal it up. But other than that, looks like she's in good running shape here. This has got the 3-shoe clutch. This is a 1982 model. Let's see, 265. Yeah, so this will be fall. We're built in fall of '82. So again, 3-shoe lined clutch. This has got the later style non-adjustable automatic oiler. I got to put a little oil in it to make sure that that is working. What I do know is that the oil cap check valve is shot, because when I got the saw, the box was just a oil slick around that. So I don't think she actually has any oil left. Nah, that thing is bone dry. So I'll get that changed out and test the oil pump. But other than that, Richard, I think this will be heading back to you very soon. Hey everybody, so we're finishing up the 360 here. There were a few more things to add to the list. Right after I turned off the video last time, I had it all of a sudden just jump the idle. I mean, we're talking high, real high. So I decided I needed to tear in and look for various leaks, and it was a bit of a pain in the neck. I ended up with a couple more oddball, obscure items. I mean, it's all stuff that can happen, but the diagnosis had me a little bit puzzled. I tore it down expecting to find a tear in that car boot, and there wasn't one there. So that was good, but I decided, alright, I've got this thing apart here. I'm going to pressure test the crankcase and just be sure. So got the flywheel and clutch off, pressure tested it. And on pressure, I was getting no leakage other than right at the muffler itself. I was just using the muffler to hold this piece of rubber in place, and it was a little bit distorted, so there's a very slow minor leak there, which I was able to isolate with my soap spray. Crankshaft seals weren't leaking, so I decided, alright, put it on the vacuum, because it's you always want to test both vacuum and pressure. When a seal gets weak, that garter spring on the inside is more likely to allow a vacuum leak than it is a pressure leak. Or at least it's going to be more exaggerated on the vacuum side. So I got vacuum up to about 15 inches and noticed just a real small bleed off. And when I got to the clutch side here, I grabbed the crankshaft and just moved it a little bit like this, and I heard a poof, and it dropped about 5 inches of vacuum. So I go, okay, I'll be damned. It didn't show a leak under pressure, but it sure did under vacuum. So new crankshaft seal on that side. As I got it apart, I found the reason why there was a big oil slick here, and I never did get it to oil right. The hose had rotted off of the barb down here on the crankcase, so I got that taken care of while we were in there. Got it all back together, and it still just wasn't running quite right. So I got back into the carburetor, and there were two things that I ended up correcting. One, the circuit plate, and I evidently already misplaced that circuit plate gasket. I went ahead and replaced that, but on the underside of the circuit plate there was a little bit of rust. And what it acted to me like it was doing was getting too much fuel, but it was kind of an intermittent too much fuel. It made it very hard to tune. And I thought there could have been some leakage under that, because the rust may not be allowing that plate to seal properly. Okay, got that taken care of. And I like to assemble my carbs under pressure, so that if I'm bolting down that diaphragm cover and the metering inlet lever there is set just a little too high, it's going to release. Well, I got all the way down to the last screw, and I'll be damned if I didn't get a poof, and it bled right off. And I tried pumping it back up, and it would not hold. So we're talking a measurement of a 32nd of an inch was all the difference in the world. So anyway, she's running good now. I've got it idled down really low, at much lower than it needs to be for the clutch disengagement, just because I wanted to make sure it would hold and idle, and it is. It's not loading up that much, just a little bit. I've got it set rich, because again, the fuel that I run is much different than what most other people run, so I try to calibrate these saws to run on a 32 to 40 to 1 mix. So anyhow, This one is going to sit for a couple days. I'll do my customary restart, and then it's going to be ready to rock and roll.